Hiya, and welcome back to Password, the game that teaches us that, egg. Let's just hop right in. I came up with how a new door would work, and I can't come up with something other than just egg. Well, that could have gone better. Could it have, though? Beats me. Sure feels like we're out of options. We've been put on a timer at the very least. Though taking down Memphis is a big ask. Given guns aren't an option doesn't leave us with much, I'm going to turn down my microphone sensitivity. So, what does work on Memphis if we can't use guns? Bigger guns? Could be arranged, although I doubt we have the time nor specialized ammunition to really make that viable. Is poison out too? I'm not willing to gamble on poison given how much he can drink. He can probably just metabolize it. I have a really dumb idea. If it's that dumb, then why suggest it? How dumb exactly are we talking? It better not be magic. Thinking something a little bit more primitive than magic. What, like a sword? The moment I said it, it dawned on me, though I didn't like exactly what was being insinuated. We have one of those. I don't believe he meant that as a legitimate suggestion. At the point we're at, should we really be ruling out anything? I can't lift it though, so it's not like it's a great suggestion. Sal could probably do it. Or we could just use a smaller knife. If his scales are tough enough to make him bulletproof, I don't think a display sword is going to, in this case, quite literally cut it. Jokes. What? So if he needs a surgery or something, he's just fucked? Unless they go in through his mouth, maybe. If his insides are vulnerable, then we might have options. Like getting him to swallow something comes to mind immediately, but we don't have much hope of that. Unless we sneak some razor blades or something into some booze and get him to drink it. Think that could work? No. So what can we do? It's not like we can just hand over what he wants, even if we wanted to. Hand me over to him. There's just a body anyway. How is that going to help? He wants a time machine, not a rat. Inside my body is a USB. All the source code to make another vault. Or at least that's what Oswin said when he put it in there. What? So we're saying that he can just make his own? I thought he wanted the complete thing. He doesn't exactly strike me as a patient type to take that option either. So what? There'd be a second vault? Another version of you out there somewhere? There's only one me, Dave. The USB is a fake. So we try and dupe him with that instead? That feels even less likely to work. Well, I'm not hearing any better ideas. We have a display sword, an idea to get the guy to drink razors. God damn it. I'm just picturing it in my head. All these ideas. I am picturing them in my head, and they are all fucking hilarious. Well, I'm not hearing any better ideas. We have a display sword, an idea to get the guy to drink razors. Some amount of guns and what? One less plan to dupe him and get away? But then we have to worry about him following us, right? That's a fair point. Free internal shaping. That's a fair point, yeah. I sure as hell went off this mountain and don't want anyone following us home. Which means we really do need to kill him, huh? When you put it like that, it sounds almost impossible. But there has to be a way, right? Some weakness or something? It's not like he's immortal. Unless he's not immortal. And he's in good shape too, I think. So hoping for a heart attack or aneurysm isn't going to work either. If either of those things happened, I'd be impressed. Well, if Thor with Tharp, then I guess we could try and go medieval on him. What, like Knights Slaying Dragons style? I take it back. I don't like talking about the casual murder of my ancestors. You were the one that raised it. Well, now I'm the one unraising it. The watermill, huh? Something come to mind? Was thinking that if I was operational, I'd just blast him with some sound. What, and annoy him? I mean, knock him out. That doesn't work. It just makes him all angry and loud, then burns the house down. I'd spoken before I'd even realized it, slowly covering my mouth. Alright, well, good to know that's one plan we can roll out anyway. Thanatos shook his head and gestured to the railing for me to set him down. So, here's where we stand. Dean is about to die, followed by Oswald and the rest of us. I went to speak, but Thanatos cut me off. We can roll out Dominic and Jack, maybe, potentially, but in order for any of this to stick, Memphis needs to die. Any questions? We have to kill my dad. Don't get me wrong, I'm not as upset you might think I am, but... Is it even possible? Bulletproof, display sword proof. I imagine fireproof and poison proof are only making things harder for us. You have that right. So, where does that leave us exactly? Could we drop something heavy on him? Is there a piano in the mansion? Can we, even though that'll make me sad, can we drop it on him? I don't know. I haven't tested any of this, so if anything's about to go wrong, your guess is as good as mine. Our resources are what's in the house and what areas we can reach within reason. Within reason? Like what? Don't think we're going to get shit out of the hedge maze or the greenhouse. Or the pool, outside of maybe a hiding place. And hiding is off the table. We'd be found eventually for sure. We can't run, we can't hide, so we fight? You're not fighting anyone. None of us might have a choice, Dyson. It's a choice between us or them. And even if we did run, choosing to condemn Dean, then he'd just continue on until he found us. Even after he got the time machine? It's not a time machine, remember? And once he learns that and the other people that were here are gone... He's going to come looking for us to try and get it to work. We looked at each other, and one by one, I could see each of my friends deflate as a realization set in that we had no good options. How do you bring yourself to kill someone, let alone someone who was likely unkillable? Thanatos, can I ask you something? What? Have we ever killed Memphis at all? As in any timeline, anything that could offer us a clue? I'll need time to check. You clearly remember one way already at the very least. I gulped, slowly nodding my head. He went immediately still, and Russell wandered over to scoop him up. Every now and again he'd twitch, though after the first minute of waiting I left him to it. Alright, well, until we hear back, what do we do? I feel I'll have to open the armory up after all. Is that wise? I wouldn't say no to a gun. Do you know how to use one safely? How hard can it be? Take the safety off, point it at the bad guys, pull the trigger. Simple. You know how to take the safety off? I kinda do. Not exactly. I was going to guess that's the part where you turn it sideways if Haas hadn't already clued me in on that being wrong. Good grief. I actually kinda know how to shoot a gun. My grandfather taught me how to shoot a gun. What a point of pickaxe at work. Good grief. I don't know if I'd be any good with a gun either. It's absolutely a problem needing to be solved. I imagine nothing easy to use isn't going to do much against his hide. We should probably bring Oswin his revolver regardless of what we do. I concur, if only for his peace of mind. If he's a scientist, would there be anything of use in his lab? He's the scientist, so if there was, only he would know. Not necessarily. What did you have in mind? If he's got the bare basics, nothing there is going to be overly useful, but anything a bit more exotic might be worth bringing. I don't know what he could do with them out in the woods, but you never know. Well, guess we better go check. It's on the way to the armory as it is, so at least on the way we can all stick together. Perhaps it's best if we split the group in half. I guess if there's no other places we need to search, sure. We headed inside. Dave Detective. Roswell holding Thanatos as we headed into the basement. Yeen Detective, Then from there into the passage behind the secret door. Alright, so if anything seems to be useful, be sure to point it out. Useful as in anything to kill a dragon with. Sorry, I'm glad it chose this group to follow. You're welcome to go explain guns to Tyson, then. Did you see how both of them looked following Bentham in there? About how we all feel, I think. Roswell, does anything spring to mind immediately that we could be looking for? I think Orlando is... Wait. Roswell, yeah. I think Orlando is probably the better one to ask here. Me? I'm nothing like my dad. Thankfully. When this is all done, you can share your dislike of your dad with Tyson's dislike of us. For now, can we just focus? Sorry, let me think. A heavy-duty injector gun could work, though. I don't think we're going to get close enough to do anything with it. Even if we did, aren't the scales like, stab-proof? There's some fleshy part still you could get to it and maybe get it could work, but...
Does he smoke? Maybe we could trick him into using one of those exploding cigars.
Do you just happen to have one of those that actually blow him up?
Not exactly, no.
Could we use explosives at all? If we're inside a water mill, would that be safe? Dean's inside there, so we'd be putting him at risk if we bring the whole place down. Which we're not doing. Shove fireworks in his... Thank you, Amethyst, for approving that. Just stick a firework in his ass. Get real close and just go... Ooh. Which we're not doing. In any other situation, I imagine burying him alive would have worked wonders. Memphis, I mean. Wait. Oh, good, I was about to say. Roswell placed Thanatos down by Oswin's desk and started to look around. The others did so too, though there ultimately wasn't much to look at. Roswell made a beeline directly for the cabinet of dangerous things, and the other two checked the other room. Me, though, I went to Thanatos, trying to shake the feeling that I was being watched again. It's just in my head, it's not real, just need to figure it out. I sat down in Oswin's chair and looked through drawers that were unlocked, occasionally looking back to Thanatos to see if he was awake again. Thanatos? But he was still twitching, looking through who knows how many different things to find the answer to our problem. Oh, what about this? Seriously? What'd you guys find? I called back over my shoulder, hearing them make a discovery in the other room.
I'm not finding much over here that we could use to immediately put him out of action, just stuff that could make him sick.
Dave, what are you doing? Just waiting on Thanatos? Well, Landis found something worth considering.
What is it?
Acid.
What, like hydrochloric?
I just thought acid and had the idea. Oh, God.
Well, what kind of acid is it?
Nitric?
Well, that's dangerous. Someone really should tell Oswin off for having such dangerous things in a lab.
How dangerous are we talking?
Very.
On a scale of 1 to 10?
If 10 is the most dangerous thing, it pushes 11 easily. This gets into contact with anything organic, it could explode.
I was thinking we could just injure him enough he can't recover, like blind him or something. So it's not even going to be a quick death. What if he gets mad and, I don't know, starts shooting wildly while he can't see? Or decides to torch the place? Which, rescuing Dean. What are we even going to do about that? Just walk in and make the trade, or do you think he has him somewhere else?
As in, somewhere we could sneak to and avoid confronting Memphis entirely?
It'd mean we could do any number of things knowing Dean is safe. Until you remember that we can't really afford to destroy the place without stranding ourselves on the mountain. Alright, I'm done looking. Verdict? So, to answer the most important question, you have succeeded in killing Memphis more than once. Alright, how? I should clarify, you as a group have managed to string something together. Why is this not filling me with a lot of confidence? Because most time where he dies, he's taken a few of you out. What options have worked, though? The one that works the most is dropping the house on him. Buried alive, basically.
I'm surprised that works. If he can withstand bullets, dropping a house on him, I wouldn't have thought it worked.
Well, it's easier of the two to set up. The other option is to blow him up. What, with a bomb? Where are we even going to get explosives? Better question is, how are you going to get them close enough without killing yourselves? If we could keep Dean safe, then none of this would really matter. We bury him and then just call for help, right? When we don't need to worry about someone killing us, we have a lot more time. True. If we shove a... Why are we talking about shoving fireworks into asses? Roswell looked over the vial of acid in his hand carefully, nudging me after having decided something.
I'm gonna fill a couple of these up.
Seriously? More importantly, why?
You never know, might need to burn away the ropes holding Dean, for instance.
A knife, Roswell. We can use a knife for that.
I'm doing it anyway.
With a huff, he went back into the other room, Orlando looking between him and us, unsure of what to say. Go on, just say it. So do we bring more than just acid, or... Do whatever you like. Roswell wandering off to play with chemicals has ruled out what I wanted to do. Which was... knock the three of you out. Excuse me, what? Why would you want to do that? They could have some flash of insight while unconscious. Beats me what they remember. If you wanted us to remember something, couldn't you just tell us at this point? And run the numbers for every instance and for each of you. Pass. Sounds like you wanted to do it more for fun than anything else. For what it's worth, I'd prefer not to be unconscious on the floor, thanks.
If I put you under, I promise I'll at least have you looking somewhat dignified this time.
What do you mean this time? I'm going to check on the others.
Why?
Not as if there's anything else in here I can think of using. Unless there's some amazing poison we know is going to work or a weapon that we don't already know about. I got up and went to leave the lab when I heard footsteps approaching, instead just freezing on the spot. The others stepped into the lab, led by Benson, before I had to go anywhere. I trust nothing is wrong. No, just weighing options. Well, we have guns. Well, we have guns now, that's something. Though we don't have appropriate ammunition, as Benson thought. So, where does that leave us? A plan short of how to save Dean, it appears. That just sounds like a fancy way of saying we have nothing. We have acid? Pardon? Acid, like, acid. From the other room. What are you going to do with acid? Roswell's planning on just getting some vials of it in case we need it. Bullets may not work, but acid could potentially, if we could get it into him somehow. What, with the pneumatic injector? Wait, think we could just inject him with acid? Truthfully, we don't even need acid. Even air injected into an area will run the risk of causing an embolism. Acidic bullets go burr, which isn't exactly fast enough to put him out of commission. True. Hey, Dave, any idea what they're talking about? No? Small pockets of air that cut off blood circulation to the brain could be the simple way to explain it. If we can do that, then yeah, sure. Still need to get close enough. Or a Molotov cocktail. Oh no! Any idea on what we can do, Benson? You want to go help Oswin, but he's not where Dean is. Yes, well, I can't rightly let you confront Memphis alone now, can I? When we arrive, Memphis is going to want us to hand over something to him. And even then, there's no telling what he'll do to us after. So what do we give him then? Pardon? Have to give him something. We just give him Thanatos, right? That's what he wants, even if it's not exactly going to do him any good. But isn't that, like, bad? Bad how? Like, now all of a sudden Memphis can do the bullshit of being able to see other people dying, isn't that bad? Assuming if such a thing will traumatize him enough, potentially. I wouldn't worry about it. Thanatos gestured for us all to come closer, and we stood around the desk he was perched on. He tries anything and I just turn myself off. I may not be able to see without this body, but if the plan is to go out and confront him and I'm going to be out of range anyway... You're just going to shut down like that? Think about what you can do, Dave. Imagine if Memphis got to that point as well. Ah, right. Just so we're clear, what exactly are we talking about? Being able to recall trauma without needing to use the vault. Potentially problematic if his demise traumatized him enough for him to remember before it happens.
That creates another problem, though. This assumes that that's not already happened. We can be assured of that, because I don't remember anything on this branch at all.
Well, you wouldn't if you had your memory deleted, right?
You have a point. But Thanatos would only delete his memory if this worked, right? Unless you're planning on saying something changed that.
I hate to be the one to bring this up. What if we're going to go rescue Dean and Oswin? We should probably do this sooner rather than later. The moment it gets dark, we're going to struggle.
Are you even ready? Can you even be ready for what we're about to hope to do?
Fuck it. I suppose so. But the plan so far is to go get Dean, then afterwards help Oswin, right? As much as I would like to secure Oswin first, yes, I believe that is the best way forward. So once we have secured everyone some method of defending themselves, should the worst happen, we should leave. It took us an hour, but we eventually all got something and met in the foyer. Not that we felt the extra hour made us any more ready for what we were about to do. Haas had a knife, Tyson had a gun, Sal had been lumped with a sword from upstairs as well as having a gun of his own. Roswell had his vials of acid, and Orlando had a kitchen knife. It wasn't much, but it was all we had to take down someone that conventional weaponry just wouldn't work against. I'd ended up with a hunting knife, and Benson had his own gun, though we'd apparently swapped out the bullets. This only left Thanatos, who seemed to be standing on the steps lost in thought. I don't know. Thanatos, are you alright?
Maybe.
Only maybe?
This could very well be the last time we talk. Once we leave the threshold of the backyard, well, I will know what's happening.
What if everything goes well and we come back?
I'm going to be off, remember?
Oh, right. He wandered up the arm of Roswell when it was offered to him, shaking his head.
So, this is it, then? This is the last thing I can do for you all. After I turn myself off, the only code that will work in the door downstairs is the one to actually open it. And you're going to tell us the code?
If you figure it out, that's entirely on you. Otherwise, no. Well, thanks, Thanatos. For, helping? Kind of? I guess I'll take that. He looked to Roswell holding onto one of his tusks. Roswell, good luck, be safe. Before I could call Before I could call him out on his voice being different, he went limp and fell into Roswell's ready hands.
Thanatos.
I don't like how he just pivoted into another voice randomly there when I'm talking only to you, Roswell. Something you're keeping from us?
This isn't really the time, but I like to think Thanatos and I were friends. Friends enough that even with everything going on, he was looking out for us, or me anyway.
I guess with him offline, there's not exactly much we can ask him about it, huh? But then there's that other thing, opening the door to the vault itself. Don't look at me, I have no idea what it could be. Don't look at me either.
Opening at this point doesn't feel like it's going to get us anything new, so, I have some guesses I'd like to try, but we have something more important to deal with.
Saving Dean. And Oswin. It's worth raising that this isn't going to be some leisurely walk in the woods. It is going to be incredibly dangerous, and there is no guarantee that any one of us is going to come out of this unscathed. Benson straightened, looking at each of us in turn. Now, if there's any of you that wish to remain behind, as is the reasonable expectation, now is the time. None of us moved at first, looking at one another, though the looks we shared were of worry and fear. But I stepped forward all the same, shifting uncomfortably on my feet. Dean is a close friend of mine and important to all of us, so... Looked at my friends for visual confirmation, but no one except Sal was enthusiastically nodding. So I went to go. There were murmurs of agreement soon after, Benson looking directly to me. Very well, Dave. I make no promises, but I shall try to keep you all alive. Don't worry, I don't think any of us wants to end up dead. We'll be careful. We have to be. We set off, and for the first time I could remember we were all heading into the woods as a single group. Vague flashes through my head were of memories where some of us were out here, some at various other spots doing things, but never like this. Even somewhere Dean was with us, which gave me additional pangs of worry the longer I dwelled on the fact that he was not here with us now. He actually is fireproof, though.
Dave?
I slowed down slightly to let Roswell catch up, understanding that while his voice was low enough, everyone turned briefly to see if anything was wrong.
I'm sorry.
He kept his voice low, occasionally looking about the woods.
Maybe I should have tried harder or been less stubborn, or I don't know.
It's not like you're the only one. It's partially my fault Dean has been locked up in the watermill overnight.
Given the circumstances, would anyone have made a better choice? I don't think so.
I could see Roswell holding Thanatos carefully, and looked back to the others who seemed to be following Benson almost single file ahead of us. So he's really gone. Roswell nodded slightly, clutching him closer to his chest. Even though Thanatos' eyes were half closed, he looked no different to how he was normally. Just further proof that he was never really alive to begin with.
You have Tyson, I have had Thanatos, so...
He sighed, putting Thanatos in his pocket.
I have a theory about what he was trying to say right before he shut down.
What about wishing you good luck?
About opening the vault door as if he knew that I knew what to put in.
And do you know?
Like I said before, I have hunches, but nothing concrete. Nothing I can test out here either.
I see.
When we get back, I suppose we can try them out, right?
When we get back? I looked at the rest of the group ahead of us, worried. Roswell put his hand on my arm, breathing in deep.
We'll get back. Just you watch.
Our continued march was in silence for the most part. Benson seemed to know which way to go, though it all looked for the most part the same. Each little sound, each shadow made me more worried that we were about to be jumped, but it never came. Instead came the sudden halt of Benson leading the way, causing us all to freeze. Hi! Benson wasted no time in firing off a show, loud enough that I could hear it, but it didn't seem to echo out into the woods. He deliberately missed, though, as Jack only seemed to half duck out of the way and seemed unharmed. Well, that's not very nice! Talk fast. Why are you here? Came to talk. About? You guys seem dumb around. He left this morning and never came back. Fuck off. We have more important things to worry about. Benson held up his hand, confused. Dominic never returned? You didn't run into him on the way here? Should I have? I don't fucking know. If I may ask, who is looking over Oswin at the moment? He's tied up, so he's not going anywhere. Not with his injury, anyway. Explain. Yeah, he seemed to kick up a fuss after Dom had...
had tried to take your friend over to the watermill. The boss shot him in the leg and then left to swap places with Dom.
But he's alive? Dominic neglected to mention any sort of injury.
Alive enough? No idea about your friend, though.
Can I ask something, just if we're not going to get stabbed?
Well, if you want a bit of stabbing.
Watch as Tyson went to shoot Jack the moment the knife came up, but Benson beat him to it, shooting the knife out of his hand instead.
Killjoy!
Why did you want to know if Dom is alright?
Because he's my buddy.
Just a buddy?
Yeah? What are you insinuating?
That you two are romantically involved, I believe.
Oh, is that what you want to know? What's Dom been telling you?
Well, he kind of cut us a deal. We leave you two out of what we're going to do while we get our friend and you leave us alone.
But that's boring. Could have cleared that with me first.
Am I to believe you are not going to honor that arrangement? Believe me, I have no qualms in defending myself should you put yourself in the way.
Well, I'm not going to agree to any deal I wasn't a part of without clearing it with Dom or the boss first.
Tyson lined up his gun again, threatening to shoot.
What? Gonna try shooting me again? I'll have you know I have another knife ready to go.
Once again, Benson shot the knife out of his hand, grunting. Are we going to keep running into this problem, or shall we be on our way?
I have more than just two knives, but I get your point. Boss finds out I'm all the way out here rather than watching your boss. I'm gonna get it.
Fine by me. What, so we're going to let him go after all? Yes.
Why?
Because as much as I dislike Oswald being taken care of by this one and his compatriot, my comparison is much better than leaving him alone with a homicidal maniac.
I can try harder if you like.
Shut the fuck up!
Make me.
Jack, answer me this. Would you rather waste time here or find Dominic? Furthermore, would you rather waste time here and run the risk of dealing with Memphis later, or avoid that by leaving now? Jack took a step back, frowning for a few moments in thought.
Fine, but this isn't over.
Yes, it is. Now run along, we have an appointment with your boss. Benson gestured to the knives laying on the soil, and Jack reluctantly backed up enough to pick them up, keeping his eyes mainly on Tyson.
It's your funeral, but if you see Dom, tell him I was looking for him.
He shot us all one foul squint before dashing off into the woods. There, Hoss. I'm alright, promise. Are you sure? He's trembling. Sal had his hands carefully on Hoss's shoulders when I'd turned to look, easing them away carefully. It's only a gunshot, that's all. Apologies, and the situation did warrant it. I know. Hiya. You're going to be alright knowing that, Tyson has a gun too? As harsh as this may come across, he doesn't have a choice. Memphis isn't going to care when it comes to firing his gun either. This is indeed true. Perhaps it might be best if Hoss does sit out. Alone? That seems like an even worse idea. I'm gonna agree with Dave. Even sending me off to go see if Oswin is alright would be better. But I'm not volunteering for that either. Well, maybe it'd be best if we lingered at the back. With the revised walking order, we continued on. My mind was on Dean, though. Hoping he was alright and wondering just what had driven Jack out here. He left Oswin alone too, so there was a big risk he was taking if Memphis found out. Not that I had a chance to consider it for too long. The watermill soon came into view, and we all froze behind the trees looking onward. Somewhere in there was Memphis along with Dean, as well as our way out. Now, everyone. There is no telling what is going to happen inside. Nothing good, I assure you. But should anyone wish to turn back now or wait here? He looked to each of us in turn, and when none of us budged, he nodded slowly. Everyone stay quiet, and as calm as you can be given the circumstances. We approached slowly, Benson leading us on, Roswell right behind him as he had Thanatos to pass over. I wondered when we'd hear something, anything to indicate that either Memphis or Dean was in fact in here somewhere, but in the dark I just had to have faith and know something would show soon. Well, fuck. Hi, bitch. Hi, bitch. Go die, bitch. Oh, wait, what? He was waiting for us as we descended the stairs, just sitting there on some old machinery. The moment he'd spotted us, he discarded a cigar that he'd been smoking into a dark corner. Brought everyone along, did you? His hand lingered over his gun sitting next to him, showing he meant business. Hand over what I want, and this doesn't have to get ugly. Roswell stepped forward slowly and held out Thanatos, setting him on something for Memphis to see and scurried back behind Benson. Brought me a stinking rat, that's the best you can do? That's the vault, the time machine you wanted, or, I stopped talking as Benson shot me a stern look, though his attention was drawn back to Memphis chuckling. You know, you'd think a job like this would be easy. Take a guy hostage, ransom him off for something, get paid double when you get to watch the fear in someone's eyes as they part with something they don't want to. That's always the best part, getting to watch that very moment they have the hope taken from them when I threaten to put a bullet between their eyes soon after. He rolled his shoulders, placing a foot on a nearby crate and eyeing us carefully. So here I am, thinking I'll dupe that bear you sent out here with the promise of escape, and he followed me in here like a stooge. You come and rescue him and trade what, a rat for him? Very funny. Thing is, I'm not in a joking mood. Done playing games, done listening to Dom wanting me to hold off. Kicked the crate open, and what rolled out were sticks of dynamite. Or if not dynamite, they looked like explosives to play the part. So if you want to play around, fine by me. Just don't expect me to play along. He picked up his gun, and before he even placed a single digit on it, Benson had his out and fired off a shot. Secure Dean! Go! Benson's next shot wasn't at Memphis, but rather the explosives nearby. Not that he connected, though probably for our sake. We took cover as Memphis bellowed and started to unload in Benson's direction, missing as he jumped behind a large machine and kept going while we headed in the opposite direction. While Benson and Memphis seemed to duke it out, gunfire echoing all around us, we desperately searched for Dean. We tried calling out, but his lack of response was explained away the moment we found him. Oh god. Oh fuck. Haas huddled in the corner of the small room we found Dean in, covering his ears from all the gunfire around us. Sal and Tyson tried to get the ropes holding Dean in place free, using Haas's discarded knife to make the job easier. Took a big gulp of air, looking around quickly. Everyone's here? What happened? What's happening? We came to rescue you! Sal grabbed him by the waist and let him out, Tyson grabbing Haas, and we made a break for it, though we didn't get far. The ground beneath us started to shake, and before we saw parts of the ceiling above start to fall, from above a section fell down, and with it was Benson and Memphis. From where we stood, Memphis seemed to have landed better than Benson, dusting himself off and slowly walking as if relishing what he was about to do. That's when I saw Roswell and Tyson step forward, though Roswell was a little quicker.
Hey!
I looked to Roswell, seeing Memphis look up our way.
Don't touch him, asshole!
Roswell threw something at Memphis, a vial of something, but it was swiped out of the air effortlessly. Though through his cocky grin, Memphis crushed it within his hand. A mistake he'd soon realized he'd made. He roared in pain as the acid in the vial started to eat away at his hand, giving Benson a shot at putting some distance between them. In the throes of pain, Memphis knocked over an old lever, one that turned on a conveyor belt in that very room. Tyson, seeing his chance, fired his gun, landing a shot right in his chest, but the bullet bounced off. If anything, it distracted Memphis from the pain happening on his hand, and he returned fire immediately. The groan from the conveyor belt starting up was all I could register as I watched Tyson crumple next to me, holding his middle and then falling to the floor. I looked back to Memphis, who now had his sights set on Roswell, marching forward with purpose. It was Orlando, having stepped up and huffed a blast of fire at his dad, distracting him. Leave him alone! Good time to grow, pair, kid. Shame I just don't care anymore. I caught the sight of Roswell lobbing another vial of acid towards Memphis, though this one was caught and quickly discarded over his shoulder with his attention now away from his son. Both of us stepped back, but Memphis was quicker, knocking me aside and grabbing Roswell by the scruff. The primed vial of acid was knocked from his hand. Cute trick. Been a while since someone hurt me. Oh god. As if Roswell weighed nothing, Memphis threw him just enough to adjust his grip around Roswell's throat. You're looking like Oswin, just pissing me off, though. Another thunderous roar echoed from nearby. This time it came from Sal, charging forward and crashing into Memphis. With its bulk and the sudden tackle, Roswell was dropped and Sal ended up on the conveyor belt with Memphis. Roswell was struggling to catch his breath, though my attention went from helping him to watching out for Sal after only moments. Managed to catch the pair of them. Sal and Memphis disappearing through a chute and out of sight. Yeah, Oswin is Roswell's father. That's like, I know. I am so mad right now. Roswell is still my baby boy. Roswell is still my baby. And I love him. He's still my baby girl. Benson had picked himself up by this point and sped along the conveyor belt down the chute as well, gun in hand. I'm going too! Ah! Back to therapy, right? Rather than taking the conveyor belt, Dean picked up the only thing he saw that resembled a weapon and disappeared down a corridor. In the moment of silence I was given, I looked at Tyson bleeding on the floor of the mill, twitching and groaning. Haas had rushed over and was already pulling off his shirt to have something to mop up the blood. He gave me a look that told me he had things handled as best he could here, and with that I followed the others in Dean's wake. Next floor down was darker still, more dusty, but the groaning conveyor belt filled the silence. What we saw upon reaching the floor below was Sal pinned underneath Memphis, about to be roasted point blank by the fire already welling up inside Memphis's chest. Dean took a couple of steps forward and threw the sword he was carrying. Not as if he had anything else to use, but it at least connected with Memphis's side. The distraction was enough for Sal to reverse the grip, though. The two were groaning and roaring, still on the conveyor belt, somehow traveling down its length. Help! It took a few steps closer before it looked like Sal had already dealt with the problem. Pinning Memphis on his front, mouth clamped shut, with no gun and no mouth to breathe fire, I turned to the person next to me with a hopeful smile. What I saw was Roswell staring at me, hand sitting on another lever. I didn't have time to read the sign above me before he threw it, and the sound of sharp whirring added to the mix of groans on the conveyor belt. Oh, fuck. We all found ourselves looking down to the end of the conveyor belt. A large series of saw blades now alive and spinning viciously. Memphis and Sal noticed too, as their struggle resumed with Memphis now thrashing even harder. I was torn. I wanted to go help Sal without anything to offer in assistance. I felt I'd just get in the way. The sword was gone. I couldn't give a gun, and the knife that I had wasn't going to cut through his scales. If I could bring myself to do it. We watched as Sal was discarded over one side of the conveyor belt while Memphis rolled off the side closest to us. The gun Sal had on him clattered to the ground and was picked up casually by Memphis. As much of a disappointment as that fat fuck my dad liked so much. He dusted off his shoulders, rolling his neck. Shame, Sal. Thought you had it in you to take me down, but guess I was wrong. His eyes were set on Roswell, raising his gun almost painfully slow to point directly at him. Happened so fast, Benson rushing out of the dark and throwing himself in front of Roswell. He said nothing, just holding him close before eventually he fell limp to the ground, bleeding out at Roswell's feet. Sal had risen up, brandished the sword. Struck Memphis. Like before, though, it did little else other than to annoy him, even breaking on impact against his horns. Orlando and Roswell were trying to help a dying Benson. Stammering and wondering what to do, I noticed a vial of acid next to my foot. I picked it up and looked to Dean, who was watching in horror as Sal found himself about to be torched again. Time slowed down to a crawl. I could hear Benson dying at my feet. I could see Sal already throwing his arms up to try and shield against the flames. I could smell the blood that had been spilled already, everything making me feel sick. As I held the vial in my hand, everything seemed to move so fast in my head. Without thinking about it too much more, I threw it. I threw the vial in a shallow arc towards Memphis, not really knowing what to expect. Hey, Memphis! I turned around just enough to see who had yelled right as the vial smashed against his horn. Contents of the acid splashed across his face, his eyes, and he roared with pain and stumbled. Forgetting about Sal for a moment, he stumbled and threatened to breathe fire to keep people away. Sal wasn't clear of the line of fire, but that's when Dean made his move. Rushing forward, he shoved Memphis out of the way. What none of us expected, though, maybe including Dean, was that shoving Memphis as he did threw him right into the path of the saw blade. I could see Dean's eyes go wide, mouth hanging open as he watched Memphis come into contact with the saw. His roars echoed around us, blade caught in the muscles of his back and grinding deep into his neck. His blood misted upwards, we all stepped back and watched it happen, and then eventually all was quiet. He didn't move, none of us did. He didn't speak, and even as we looked to one another slowly, we dared not say anything just in case it was inviting him to say something too. Sawblade continued digging deep into Memphis's torso until it seemed to sputter out and die somewhere in the middle of his chest. If he'd somehow survived that, he had nothing left to hope for. Sal was the first one to move, looking our way and stumbling over a bit pale. He dropped down next to Roswell and Orlando, looking down on Benson, who looked on the edge of unconsciousness along with being covered in his own blood. Wait, what? Oswin, my boy? He was looking right at Roswell, blind to the rest of us here. Listen to me. I fear I don't have much time left.
Benson,
Sal put a hand on Roswell's shoulder, giving him a grave look, but it was enough to silence him. I love you like a son, my boy.
Body has been discovered!
Even after all the grief and strife, the suffering and the pain. He wheezed, struggling for Roswell's hand, and gripped it tight once he'd found purchase. But that boy will need you now, more than ever. So don't... Roswell looked to be on the verge of tears, slowly shaking his head as if denying what was happening in front of him. Don't go abandoning him now, alright? He mumbled for a few moments before passing out, though after being lightly shaken by Roswell, it took Sal to confirm what we assumed had happened. He had died. Haas appeared soon after, having rushed down the steps nearby from the floor above. Is it over? He looked between Roswell, who was openly weeping,
Discovered.
Orlando, who was a mess, Sal and Dean huddled together, Benson dead in Roswell's lap, and then over to Memphis, splayed out, half concealed in darkness. Yeah, I think so. I stumbled closer to Haas, afraid to ask, but he quickly hugged me, patting my back. Dyson's alright. Got the bleeding to stop, I think, but someone better trained for first aid should look him over. That's great news! I forced a smile, even while legitimately happy. It felt wrong to be happy in the wake of someone close to us dying. We left Memphis there, but Sal took the job of carrying Benson up. While we dealt with Memphis, by some miracle, we weren't done yet. Dean was exhausted and needed to rest, as was Orlando, who wanted to process his dad's death. Haas wanted to look after Tyson just in case, though Tyson was conscious for a little bit before needing to rest. This left Roswell and I to go find Oswin, to go find the cabin and deliver the bad news. Occasionally I'd look over to Roswell. Even while he was the one leading the way, it felt like he was following me. Maybe having Benson die in front of him was having more of a toll on him than I thought. It'd shaken all of us, but it seemed to be sticking with Roswell more. Are you okay? He didn't respond, just keeping his eyes down on the ground as we trudged forward. Roswell?
I'm not sure. Maybe.
Did you want to talk about it?
Did you? What's there to talk about?
Just how close you were in Benson anyway. Close were you in Benson anyway?
Not as close as you might think, but he was around a lot. Not enough that I didn't really consider a time where he wouldn't be around.
Did you love him?
Huh? Oh, maybe. I don't know. He felt something like a grandpa would. And I knew he was old, so...
He groaned, shaking his head.
I just don't know how I'm going to explain this to Uncle.
There's not going to be a good way of handling it, that's for sure. We spent the rest of the walk in silence, though as we approached the cabin, we were met with a welcoming party. I'll be honest, wasn't expecting to see you two again. We could hear it from over here, the roaring anyway. Considering we cannot hear that roaring anymore, shall I assume that I'm free to go now? Not until we're sure. What's there to be sure about? Think he'd just let us go to come here? He's got a point. Don't think the boss will turn up a chance to get his hands dirty and then leave the job half finished. All the more reason to suspect that you two are out of a job now. Well, damn. All right, you can go then. Dumb, buddy. We're just going to trust that they're telling the truth. Yup. And if they're not, where does that leave us? Jack, for once in your goddamn life, can't things just be easy? Dom took 2 steps necessary to be in range and swatted him roughly across the head, making him stumble. We're gonna get out of here, just you and me, buddy. He looked from Oswin to us. You guys need to move to the house before you leave? Oh man, I'll manage, if slow. Actually, could you help us bring him to the watermill? Everyone should still be there, I think. May I ask why? I would have assumed you've made for the house again. I looked to Roswell, nudging him forward. His expression said it all, with Dom and Jack backing off slightly. Roswell? What's the matter? He told him, and I thought for a moment he'd break. He was stunned, nodded, and asked if he could be helped to the mill instead. The 5 of us headed towards the mill, and once we'd arrived, Dom and Jack took their leave, escaping through the mill, or at the very least heading inside. Part of me wondered what they'd think seeing Memphis left there like that. Oswin broke there, consoled by Sal over Benson's body, but that didn't stop him crying. He looked like how I imagine I did crying about my dad, though without the group of friends present to swaddle me in a big hug. We gave them some privacy, though, Dean feeling well enough to lead most of us back to the house. Sal remained behind, along with Haas, just to give Oswin some help back to the house and what emotional support they could offer. By the time we got back, it was late in the afternoon, and before we were all exhausted, one of the last things that Jack had said before he slipped away was that he'd shut off the jammer once they'd made it off the mountain. Until then, it was just a waiting game. I waited by the back door until the others had come back, though it took a while between Haas helping Oswin walk and Sal still carrying Benson's body. Oswin didn't want to speak, but instead just watched over Benson until help arrived. Sal excused himself to go wash the blood off, so too did Haas. The others had already excused themselves to do that too, and have a few moments to put themselves back together. Now that everyone was accounted for, I could do the same. Ty peeked into Tyson's room before I did anything else. The last I saw of him earlier being a little loopy before passing out. With everything going on, I just wanted to make sure he was still breathing at the very least. Sure enough, he was just dozing. Feet occasionally twitching. He needed new bandages, something to help the wounds heal better. But it could wait until I wasn't covered in dust and blood. Time ticked on, though while we rested, there wasn't much space for sleep. Between wondering if we were truly safe and the excitement of things finally being over, what sleep we got was fleeting. Orlando spent a lot of time laying on his back on the floor, staring at the ceiling. Not with a smile or crying, but with a worried frown. Eventually, that just turned into him being quiet playing a video game. Not that he ignored me, but kept me huddled next to him with his tail. Anytime I made a move, he'd look my way with a worried grimace before going back to what he was doing. Gave us a chance to rest, but I wondered what was going to happen next. Time passed and it was quiet. For once in this vacation, since everything had gone wrong, it was finally quiet. As much as we were free to have our vacation now, all we wanted was to go home and put all of this behind us. To just move on to something nicer if we could. I awoke sometime early in the morning. It was a peaceful day. The sun was out. The world outside was bright and warm and we were alive. I got up and changed clothes, putting myself on autopilot without even considering that I didn't need to anymore. There was no danger, but what was different was our access to the outside world. With my phone in hand, I saw that I had reception, something that I didn't register as significant immediately, but as I processed it, I found myself smiling excitedly. Rushing downstairs, I looked around feeling full of vigor. Phone in hand, should I try calling? It felt momentous enough to be something to wait for everyone for. Or at the very least, double check no one else had already called. But as I looked at my phone, I felt a chill down my spine. Something didn't feel right. Something about that very moment felt off. Is anyone there? No response. Peeking into the side room where I last saw Oswin had only Benson laying there. They're now covered with a sheet. Took it that everyone was just sleeping and that's all it had to be. At least until I saw an eerie blue glow in the corner of my vision. It didn't last long, but I saw it in the direction of the basement. When I got down there, though, it was quiet. No one was down here as far as I could tell. The lights were off and the secret passage closed. Anyone down here? About to leave and head back upstairs when I felt the fur on the back of my neck stand on end. Something was wrong down here and my curiosity was getting the better of me. We already dealt with Memphis. All the danger was gone, right? As I wandered the basement, I found nothing out of the ordinary. Nothing even wrong with the gym from the brief glance I gave it. But the vault, though, that's where I found something wrong. I spotted it immediately. This was what was wrong. The first was Thanatos laying sprawled out on the floor, seemingly discarded without a care in the world. The second, though, was that the vault door was open. Not by much, but I could tell that it wasn't sitting right along with the keypad next to the door, having just a faint glow coming off it. Hello? Thanatos was offline, and with it, the vault, which means someone put in the code to open the door, but did they go inside? Carefully, I approached the door and eased it open more so I could look inside. All that stretched before me was a dark room, the contents I could barely make out until I took a step in and used my phone as a flashlight. The faint glint of broken glass on the floor made me kneel down to get a closer look. In a puddle on the floor was a green liquid, though it didn't smell of anything I could identify. Was it Oswald's medicine? But why was it spilled on the ground like this? Someone opened the door just to do this? Hey Thanatos, can you hear me at all? Checked the panel properly since my arrival and saw the word lit up on the screen. Offline. If he was offline, then I could yell down the house, but he probably wouldn't be able to hear me. I made my way back upstairs with Thanatos in my arms, wondering what I should do with him. Roswell was the one to ask about him for sure. He wasn't in his room, and though I didn't search the house for long, I found myself standing outside. It was as peaceful as it was when I woke up, but I couldn't shake that feeling from earlier. Why did it feel like something was wrong? Roswell? He wasn't by the pool. In fact, it looked like no one had been there in a fair while. Roswell, are you there? That feeling started to grow stronger when I didn't find him in the greenhouse either. I looked down to Thanatos with a frown, turning him over slowly. It looked like he was just sleeping, if a little limp, and then it started to sink in. My search for Roswell became more desperate. My fur was bristling off my skin the closer I seemed to get to the hedge maze, a sign that I took as me being in the right place. Though turn after turn through the maze I took, trying to remember the path I took when Thanatos guided me to the middle. Part of me wanted to find nothing in the center of the maze. The other part wanted Roswell. I just wasn't sure if finding Roswell was going to be good or bad. Thankfully, I didn't have to wait long.
Emotional damage.
Oh, that scared me. No, not my baby. Not my baby boy. Not my baby boy, no. Breath caught on my chest as the middle of the hedge maze opened out before me. Roswell was sitting on the bench, head down, and from what I could see, even this far away, struggling to breathe. Roswell?
Dave.
I wandered closer, stopping before him, unsure of what to say or do at first before he glanced up at me briefly. Good morning. Hey, I found Thanatos downstairs and... Holding the limp rat out, Roswell barely managed to hold his hands out for me to hand him over. The act dropped an envelope from Roswell's lap, a single name written on the front. What's this? Roswell looked from me to the letter, watching me pick it up and see that it was addressed to me. That's for you. For me? Carefully, I opened the letter, pulling out the contents, and started to read. Dave, if you're reading this, then our vacation is about to be over. In the best way possible, too. I wrote this in hopes that when we came back from the watermill that we'd have all survived. We'd be able to go home and one day put all of this behind us. But things are never that simple, are they? There's always something that gets overlooked or someone that gets overlooked and lost along the way. If you're reading this, then either you came back to the mansion without me or I gave you this letter. For what it's worth, I hope that I'm the one that was able to give it to you. I was doomed from the beginning, Dave. I was never meant to live past this vacation. From making myself more sick to get clearer visions from the vault to trying anything and everything to keep you safe and alive. After all, if you died, what did that mean for the rest of us? Oh God. Oh fuck. It's the same as letting Memphis get access to the vault. No matter what happened, I couldn't allow that to happen either. All that ever mattered was to give you as much time as I possibly could. And hopefully you'd outlive your friend who was doomed to die all those years ago. But I'm not sad about it. Even if I may die soon, know that I'll do so happy. I have no regrets about what I did, and if I had to do it all over again, I would. Not because of some grand ideal like love, or because I was deluded enough to think I'd be able to save the world, but because it was right. In whatever warped way right here means anyway. My choices were between doing nothing and watching you all die, or choosing one person to take the fall and save the rest. Even if that person to die was me, then so be it. You just had to remember that so that everyone afterwards would be fine. Or at least that's what Thanatos told me. I wished I never had to make that decision, but years of nightmares and the insistence of someone that I trusted and knew better convinced me otherwise. And then when I asked my uncle about what was happening to me, he looked so sad and offered to help me with whatever I needed, no matter what. He offered his house, he offered everything he could to create a space where you were taken from so much danger, only for us to throw you right back in. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm sorry for everything I put you through, for everything I did wrong, and for everything that I can't protect you from in the future. I'm sorry that this road caused you so much pain and suffering, that I wasn't able to make you understand sooner. Writing this is hard, but do you know what I'm looking forward to most? Even if I'll never get to see it, or rather remember it? Oh God. It's meeting you again. When we were kids. When the universe ends and everything resets after all those years, I'm looking forward to getting to meet you again. Even if it's something as simple as building a snowman. That day is incredibly special to me. But what are the chances any of this is even real? Or that these things even happen? Even I'm wondering if this wasn't some huge cruel joke by the gods or a demon just to make us suffer for entertainment. If I'm being honest, I'm scared, Dave. Scared of what's about to happen now that we're so close to the end. Will it hurt? Will you all forget me? Am I going to see my mom again? If you do get to see her, would you tell her that I love her, just in case I can't? Put the letter down, looking to Roswell. The letterhead ended there, without him even signing his name. Roswell?
Body has been discovered.
Emotional damage.
Standing there in front of me, I could tell he was at peace. While not smiling, he looked calm. He was dead. As I struggled to come to terms with what was in front of me, the weight of the envelope registered as heavy enough to have more than just paper in it. Inside was another medal, this one engraved with a stylized M. Roswell! I flinched, hearing Oswin bellow from somewhere in the backyard. Immediately I understood the position I was in and started to cry. Already missing Roswell, sad for the discovery that Oswin was about to make, and the tragedy that he wasn't coming home with us. I trudged back the way I came, having left the letter with Roswell and Thanatos. He looked up as I made myself known, emerging from the hedge maze. While I didn't say anything, my face said it all. Came to a stop before him, cheeks still wet with tears and threatening to cry again. Roswell? He... Oh. He crumpled slightly, the crutch that he was using being discarded as he sat down on the steps looking out into the backyard. Then quietly he started to cry. Eyes forward, that's all he did, not reacting when I sat next to him to offer a hug. We sat like that for a while, long enough that I lost track of exactly how long it had been. The only reason I knew time had passed at all was Haas rushing out to tell us help was on its way. With Oswin injured, getting down to the driveway was difficult, but we managed. As a group, we left the mansion behind and stepped out onto the road to wait. And before long, we heard the telltale signs signaling someone had come to help. 3 weeks later. My sweet, sweet bacon. My baby boy. It had been a long 2 weeks, a lot of us just crying and breaking down on the way to the hospital and police station to explain what happened. It was a miracle that we were for the most part uninjured, or at least physically. They had to keep Tyson in hospital, only just got discharged him a few days before after surgery. Apparently he was very lucky in how the bullets had hit him, though it was going to be potentially years for him to fully recover. Okay, I'm gonna miss you, bacon. My little bacon. Okay, I'm good. That poor bacon. It meant that he couldn't go to Roswell's funeral, but given the circumstances, no one blamed him. The rest of us, though, were shaken and still jittery. Maybe all thought that we were going to be hunted, or about to wake up back on that mountain. As the nights went by, though, the easier it got to realize it was safe at home. That I was safe at home, and that this wasn't some dream that Thanatos was feeding me. Orlando, are you still hiding behind the tree? No. I looked over with a smile, seeing him awkwardly stepping out from behind one of the trees nearby. Even with his dad gone, he was still a bit fighty. Wait, fighty or flighty? Flighty. Yeah, it's alright, no one's going to come looking for you. You don't know that! It's what you told me yesterday? Hey, things are crazy back home. People still aren't even sure that he's gone. Didn't they ever, go get the body, confirm it? Oh, they did, but him dying wasn't someone anyone really expected. Right. Sorry, it's nice to be out even here. Have you thought at all about what comes next? What's happening with the family? Since the last time you asked? Well, yeah. Funnily enough, there have been some developments. Without Dad around, they've been quick to ask Grandpa for advice, but he's not all there. So, the direction things are taking even over the past week have been crazy. Crazy good? Let's just say I'm happy I've been able to craft at your place. We can head back soon, I'm almost done here. Orlando made a sound somewhere between a yelp and a squeak, which was enough to draw me up from tending to Dad's grave. Follow the direction he was pointing, watching as two familiar figures approached. Oh, greetings. He looked between the two of us, settling on Dad's grave as his sister stepped up. We'd met her properly at Roswell's funeral, though I only had vague memories of her from my childhood. It's so nice to see you two again. Are you doing any better since we last spoke? Personally, maybe. I'm fine. I'm glad. Sorry for bothering you two, but my sister here had something she wanted to do before we left. Involving us? Of course, something to give you for your troubles. If it's money, we don't want it or need it. We have more than enough. How cute. But no, it's not money. Florencia fished out of her pocket a familiar-looking piece of metal and handed it out to Orlando. It was expression made her offer it to me immediately after. Metal? We're still not collecting them, though. Perhaps, but it's important I pass it on all the same. Another jostle of it in her hand, I took it from her, looking it over. I don't know if this is a joke or not, but neither he or I, neither of us, what? You don't know what this one is? It looks sort of like the one Roswell left me. No, my sister's not calling you both virgins. We still don't need the medal. You're right, not now anyway. How youthful. It'd be more useful if she remembered to bring both medals she still had in her possession. Oh, I remembered it. It was a conscious decision. So this is going to be helpful to us later? In a sense, maybe not now. Maybe not even in this lifetime. Maybe not even at all. But it's worth placing the seed here all the same. I see. Can we just take a step back for a second? You come here to give a thumb trinket for a game that we're not even playing anymore. After we lost Rothwell, after everything that happened. And this is what you're going with. Consider it this way, then. You play video games, so you're very familiar with the concept of New Game Plus, no? New what? Obviously, yes. Maybe. Then consider this something that will carry over to your next playthrough. What are you talking about? Placed a hand on Orlando's arm, and when I started to see smoke rising, pocketing the medal. Thanks, we'll keep it in mind. Oh, I sure hope you do. Was there anything else? I don't think so. Then we shall take our leave. Best of luck to both of you. We watched them go, with Orlando huffing for the next few minutes. Well, that was something. I'm not a kid. I don't need things explained to me using video games. But did it actually help, though? His expression said it all, though I shook my head and looked around the graveyard as I thought. So I really wish it would have helped now. At least, things are turning out alright, with or without the medals. I'd like to think so. We're going to try at least, aren't we? Listen to me, Trevor. It's not a matter of try, I promise they will. Someday at the very least. And he was right. Well, not immediately, things started to settle in with his family and settle hard. Apparently, a lot of them moved back overseas in order to continue the family business. While Orlando stepped up to lead who was left of the family. Rather than crime, it was bread and every manner of baked goods, single-handedly or so he claimed. He converted those that were left into honest working folk. Made a bunch of money, too. So much so that he helped fund a cafe for Dean, and they entered some sort of business arrangement. I helped out at the cafe if only because I wanted to. Not that we needed the money, plus it was nice to spend time around my friends. Tyson stopped by every now and again once he'd gotten back from his trip, and the two of us made sure to have dinner once a week as brothers. After all, he ended up signing the papers to make the adoption official. We saw Sal a fair bit too. He decided to become a cop just to make sure things stayed safe. Even if Orlando constantly reassured him things were doing alright. Haas ended up meeting a tiger at a convention or something, and they started making online content? Last I heard, they were going to get married, but we're still deciding what the theme should be. Much to Tyson's annoyance, it looked like it was going to be decided on stream. Whatever that means. As for Oswin and Florencia, I never saw them again. As far as I could tell, they vanished entirely. Not that I made the effort to go looking. It was something best left in the past. I wondered if things could have gone differently, or if I wanted them to. One look at the happy life that we'd found told me all I wanted to know. I treasure it as much as Orlando treasured me, and it was something I wouldn't give up for the world. Path A end. Fuck. Well done. You've reached the end, finally. It's good to see you. Are you wondering what exists here at the end of the time, at the end of life? Let me show you. But first, let's check a few things, shall we? Memory reaches across time and space alike if it's strong enough. Or if you never die, that helps too. If you're like me, being an observer from the outside has its benefits. In this endless expanse of the dark, it's funny that the pattern repeats in a loop. Life, asterisms. Even I don't know when I started coming into being anymore, though I recognize my origins. This should be no surprise, given you saw me grow and develop into whatever existence this is. Godhood, perhaps? But as I said, we have things to check. Ares. Your memory of this is on Roswell's bedside table, yes? Or rather, Dave's memory of it anyway. This one was tucked away by Thanatos and used as a push towards that breaking point. Though to his credit, it worked. Taurus. placed a long time ago by a young girl under a pumpkin surrounded by its elements. It lay in wait patient for its time to be found, by Dave no less. Gemini. Split as a joke, or perhaps a more rigorous test to see if the adage is indeed correct, that two people could come to understand one another and exist in perfect equilibrium. Leo. A long time ago, this was hidden somewhere intended to be found. Not for Dave, but for Roswell, to point him towards the truth by his mother. And as that became less and less likely, or rather because Thanatos missed the truth, things played out differently. Virgo. You would think that it would immediately imply a virginal maiden, and to some extent that is true. Innocence and purity are the more important factors here. Some equated this with a clean slate, though not one granted after the fact. More starting point. Scorpio. Some consider this to be one of the more evil signs, though we place no stock in that here. After all, they're merely signs in the sky, and while the person that gave Dave this particular medal was the root of all this tragedy, well, not that it matters anyway. Sagittarius. In one place, this was handed to Dave to mark the point where things ended, and another as a symbol to look towards the future, a guiding arrow, perhaps a weapon to continue inflicting suffering and pain. Aquarius. Aw, fuck, did we just get the true ending? The sign of unrestrained flow. It will keep going of its own accord like time, regardless of the whims of those around it. Perhaps that's why it's found its way into the middle of the maze. How many does that make? 8? A shame, really, there's still some missing. Perhaps you've not seen everything there is to see. Done all there was to do. But don't worry, we'll meet again, and no doubt it'll be sooner than either of us think. Son of a whore. Well, going to load this save. And just go ahead, Wait, will this put us in path... Which path will this put us in? I was hesitating and didn't know why. Give up. I whined, backing away from the panel and almost... No, we didn't. Hang on. We're going to keep going for a little bit. We want to get to another path. Just to do this. The fact that I hadn't gotten the vault to work at all seemed to fall by the wayside, and that I still had a path forward with Oswin, unable to answer some questions. Maybe I didn't need the vault after all, as unlikely as it seemed. Yeah. We're setting up another path. I guess it doesn't matter. Then why even asked? I'm going to go ask Oswin about my parents. That's at least something I can check given I have the license as proof. You're welcome, by the way. Need help getting to where he's holed up? I don't plan on hitting the new game button. You mean the lab. I know the way already. Good. I might see you there then. Gonna take the way back so I don't get asked where I've been all day. At least while you're around. He scurried along out of the room and into the darkness of the basement with me close behind. Hang on. I would keep going until it changes. But the moment I stepped out into the open, I lost track of where he went, left instead to wander over to the wall that Oswin had guided us through those days ago. Feeling around for anything resembling a handle, my hand instead found a concealed button in one part of the wall, opening it up and revealing a passage beyond. Yeah. Because back home there's a box under my bed with all of my dad's stuff that I've hidden from Mom. If I'd had his license, it would have been in there too, and I know for a fact it wasn't. I shook my head. No, which worries me still. Thanatos knew what was in there, and yet he did nothing. Yes, well, I can hardly get that rat to cooperate with me on a good day. Otherwise, he wouldn't have left his cage. Do you think he was just messing with me, or do you think that I screwed up? It's hard to say. When I ran diagnostics, I didn't see anything altered or different, but we've already been proven wrong as to just how much is locked away into its coding when everything you've seen thus far, I haven't touched. Yeah. Hiya. Right now we're setting up for a new path. Should I do anything just in case? Unless you want to start at the beginning of the dictionary and continue through until you hit on something applicable, I don't see there being much an option. But getting through the dictionary before the deadline of whenever this event is to take place is another, not to mention whatever Thanatos might do to intercept you from brute forcing a solution. We're not doing Route C. We're doing an offshoot of Route A. Had it really screwed up? Was this just a way for Thanatos to entertain himself? If it was, I couldn't figure out why unless someone had coded his AI to be that much of a jerk. Hang on. We're not close to Tennessee's record. We're not even close to the record. If not, were you curious? What exactly had he needed to check? Plus, it was a good enough time to see what Thanatos was doing. Who knows who could die tomorrow? Who knows what things are going to happen over the next few days? Presumably you. For the most part, don't know everything, but I know a fair bit. What about a time span? That could at least narrow down what to expect. The experiment could end tomorrow, could have ended a week from now, or anywhere in between. Really? You'll find out soon enough. I looked to Oswald and worried. Was there another password I missed? Is something about to happen? He went over to the computer and started typing something, clicking a few things around and staring at the screen. I knew better than to keep talking while he focused, but soon enough he stepped back. Damn. He reached out for Thanatos, who just skittered out of the way, still wearing that smile. You expunged the records! Prove it! Thanatos tapped his head before shrugging. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Only time will tell you if you're past the point of no return or not. Hold up. Ah, fuck. Alright, the whole date thing with Dean. Yeah. I think we'll mostly be reading, like, alternate text, like, going forward. Orlando never had that talk with Dean. Hang on. Alrighty. You know what? We're just going to leave off here tonight. I don't know either. Anyways. Yeah. Stay safe. Have a good night. And I will see you all tomorrow.